Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I am your host Giles, and joining me tonight are the three amigos, three stooges, the three wise men, Was, Mark and Clive. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello, mate.
You alright? Yeah, good. Clive, what is it? What you got tonight?
I've got a little bit of Wolf Bass, but I've gone big bottle Kronenberg 1664.
Wow.
My favourite.
Wow.
Yeah, big ones. They're the ones that are probably about a pint worth. So I'm going for it.
Right. So we should be in for a tasty one tonight then, aren't you? You're getting into your groove and whatnot. All right. Right.
Let's see how we go.
Let's see how we go. All right. So transfer window, silly season is finally over. Mark, I know you must be cock-a-hoop because I know you hate the silly season and all that comes with it, all the ITKs and the ball that comes with it and blah, blah. Me talking nonsense about some foreign player for some foreign league, proliferating your timeline with all kinds of rubbish. It's over. We can now settle into the season. I want to start with you and ask you, give us your first thoughts, your opening thoughts on how our transfer window went.
Slightly disappointed in it, but I think that obviously what we've got to wait and see is how the two guys that we've not seen in a shirt yet, other than the pictures and that. But Mustafi, I'm not overly concerned about because I believe that he's a quality defender, and I think that he'll probably slide in quite nicely. Perez, I still think that Perez is an unknown quantity. It could go either way. I remember when we signed Reyes, we didn't really know a huge amount about him, but he came in and he started off really well. I mean, we all know it's sort of like it died a death a bit for him, but I think that was more of a cultural issue for the lad, to be fair. But so I don't know. It'd be interesting. We've got to see how Perez does. I think if Perez does well, then maybe it wasn't a bad window. I think if Perez doesn't, then I think it was a bad window because I don't think we've completely addressed some of the areas we should. I mean, I'm glad we got the centre half that we needed, which is Mustafi. I still, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Holding was scheduled to be anywhere near our first team lineup until all the injuries happened. He was one for the future, and he looks definitely a very, very good prospect. And Xhaka, I like Xhaka even more. The more I see of him, I think he's a quality player. So I think we've done really, really well. But I think again we haven't quite gone the distance that we probably needed to really get up there and compete with the other clubs this season, who have made, as I think, the more important changes that they've made has been the managers. So that's what will make a big difference for them.
All right. Was just going on from what Mark said. I mean, can you, as well as giving us a brief overview of what you think of our incomings, what about our outgoings, the guys that have gone, whether permanently or temporarily?
Yeah, again, like a bit of a mixed message from this window. I was very happy. I mean, we bought right through the spine of the team. We got centre back, a top class centre back, top class defensive midfielder. Perez, by all accounts, wasn't our first target, maybe not even our second or third target, but we had to take a risk. We had to get a centre forward in. So let's see how he goes. Up until we let all these players go out on loan, I was thinking, Jesus, we got a meaty squad here. We got different sort of players that can do different sort of things, and Wenger's really got a lot of golf clubs in his bag to play with on the round. And I was just a bit disappointed with the outgoings, to be honest with you, mate. And I think we bought very well, and like Mark said, there is still other areas I probably would have preferred to really, really improve, like another additional wide forward and a well-known centre forward, but it didn't materialise, and here we are now. And we've also, like we're saying, let Joel go out. We've let Nabry leave the club. Jack's gone, obviously. Calum Chambers. So quite a few players have left the club as well as joined. So it'll be interesting to see how Wenger deals his cards this season now.
And over to you, Clive.
Yeah, there's loads of unknowns, right? So I can't see this one how it's going to play. But what I can do is look at the players and what their sort of personalities are. And I always look at the psychological mix when I look at players. And Mustafi seems to have a personality. He seems strong personality, a leader on the pitch. Xhaka's definitely got that. Perez, what you've read about him, he's been around a bit. He's not like a nice little boy from Southampton that hasn't been outside of his village. Do you know what I mean? He's been around, he's lived a bit, and I'm quite interested to see. We've added some men into the group. And when I look at our weaknesses, when we have moments of adversity, we can capitulate. So I'm hoping that with those sort of spinal additions, not just on the pitch-wise positionally, but also potentially on a psychological and a mental aspect, we're adding some men into the group at a right age profile. So I'm really hopeful with that. On the negative side, I think if you're really looking at it, I think we're wide forward short. I would have liked to have kept Gnabry, and I would like to see that. Or just someone who can play on that left side that doesn't detract away from our sort of penetration, athletic ability. So, but we are now reliant on a reduced number, and we have to wait for Welbeck to come back to maybe fill that hole. The squad for me looks much, much better. And another thing I look for, I felt last year we had a lot of dead bodies in the squad. A lot of people didn't make a lot of appearances, or if they did make appearances, I was looking today, and Flamini made 15 appearances last year. That's way too many. So we had some bodies that should have made appearances, and many players injured or people just getting pensions. And I think with this group, there isn't many on that squad sheet now that I'm thinking, well, I don't want you to play. They all look like they could play and could easily do a job. So from a squad efficiency perspective, we are good. If I'm being really greedy and pernickety, I think I would like to see another wide forward player on the left-hand side. But apart from that, I'm good.
Yeah, don't really know much about Perez at all, but in terms of his psychologically, I mean, he's moved around, so he's going to hopefully he's hardened, he's toughened, he's more cultured than what Reyes was when he came in. Mark, Reyes was basically came out of his mum's womb to Arsenal. This guy's been around the block. He's suffered. He's experienced different cultures. So hopefully, it wouldn't take him to. It wouldn't affect him too adversely. The move. As for Mustafi, I haven't seen a lot of him, but from what I'm hearing, I mean, we've discussed him before in last week's pod. We all like what we see about him. We're seeing him, and we can't wait to see him in the red and white. As for the outgoings, I'm really like you said, Clive. I'm really disappointed that Gnabry's gone, and I'm more so disappointed that we didn't put in a buyback. I'm really surprised because we usually do. I mean, when you think of Cesc Fabregas, we had a buyback for him. We had a buyback for Vela. There's no buyback in there, and I really wonder what.
Do we know that? Do we know that for sure?
Apparently there isn't. It's just 6.5 million. That's what I've read, but I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping I'm wrong.
Well, I've read 4 million. I've read 8 million. But given the fact the contract runs out on June 31st next year, we're not positioned to demand a buyback. Right. So that's probably why, if it is 8 million, that's probably why that was quite high for one last year of a contract. Right. So we're just not strong in that one. And I think maybe if we made a mistake, should we have tied him down before he went off and did his audition for the Rio Olympics? Should we have timed down the contract before he went? Maybe they tried, he didn't want to sign, he's gone out there, played his backside off, and he's got his move. Yeah. And that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and the Jack situation, it really puzzles me. It really does puzzle me, the Jack situation, because we've got rid of the deadwood. We've got a good set of midfielders that can all mix together. You can put in any permutation of those midfielders, almost any permutation, and that midfield will be flexible, solid. And I'm thinking, if Jack's worrying about minutes, the way, if we look at our history in terms of injuries and, players coming, stepping in and grabbing the chance. If you look at people like Joel Campbell kind of stepped in and grabbed his chance. Iwobi stepped in and grabbed his chance. Bellerin stepped in and grabbed his chance. Every year we've seen at least one player come in, due to injuries. You think of Coquelin a couple of years ago. There's no reason, there's nothing to say that Jack couldn't have, stuck around and got more minutes. I'm really surprised at that. And what really worries me is that, You know, he might, if he has a really good time at Bournemouth, you know, this time next year, you know, in the summer next year, he might realise there's life without Arsenal. You know, there's life outside of Arsenal. And next time, obviously this time next year, we're coming into, you know, Europe. Is it the World Cup season, isn't it? I think 17, 18. Is that right?
Well, contractually, Giles, he's got 2 years to go, right? Yeah. So if he has a good, strong year, Arsenal got to talk to him from January. Yeah. And if he said, well, you know what, I've got my legs, so I'm not talking to you. I'm going to talk to you in the summer, mate. Right? Yeah. And in the summer, the dial switches and he's strong. Exactly. And then if teams come in and they want to pay 30 million for him, there isn't a lot we can do. So I tell you what, this situation is really, really, I don't know it. I don't know what the backstory is, but it will come out over the next few days.
Yeah.
Who instigated this? Because this is a hugely positive mood from depends where you stand from. Could be hugely negative and could actually dovetail our season. Because if he starts playing well, and some of our players like Coquelin, El Neni and Cazorla don't start playing well, I mean, Watts is going to be all over him. Do you know what I mean? And he's not alone there, right? So there'll be people really saying, what have we done letting him go? We can't get him back. It's going to cause division. I think this has got risk written on over it.
Very high risk strategy.
But I just don't know who instigated it, what the backstory is. There's loads of rumours. I don't know what to believe, to be honest.
And yeah, I mean, he'll be coming into the final year of his contract, life outside Arsenal. You know, and if he has a good year, it might alert other suitors, you know, bigger suitors, bigger than Crystal Palace and Bournemouth to come into the fold. And who knows? I mean, and another thing is, you know, he's talking about he's not getting minutes now. A lot of that midfield are at the prime age of it. You're talking between the 24 and 27 years of age. If he's not going to get a game now, I don't see how. I mean, and unless obviously, maybe Santi Cazorla leaves in the summer next year, which is one down. But you look at all those players. Coquelin's 24, Ramsey's 25, Ozil in the number 10 position, which Wenger seems to see Jack at is 27. You've got El Neni's 23, 24. Xhaka's 23. These guys are all either at the prime or coming into their prime. They're only going to get better. So I really wonder what situation is there. I want to bring you back in, Mark.
Yeah.
Make a quick point.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point there about Jack. And the interesting thing is, about when all the midfielders that we have, I think when you look at how, and I know it was no disrespect to Watford, but it was only Watford and they were very poor, especially first half. But Santi and Jack have worked really, really well together. And, you know, and obviously I've got a lot of time for Santi Cazorla, and I thought when we lost him last year was when we really started to fall apart. Yeah. But for me, now with the way that Jack plays, I think he has to change the style of football that he plays, because his ankles will not last him playing the style of football that he plays, because he draws challenges on and he releases the ball too late, and then he's always, because he's a bit of a fiery character, he's always lunging in for things, and his ankle, he's going to get crunched all day long, and everyone knows about his ankles. So any manager worth his salt is going to be telling his team, you know, give him a whack around the ankles. Yeah, and that's the game. That's the way it works. If he could adjust his game slightly, he's the closest thing we've got to Santi Cazorla. And you're right, Santi will probably go back. I would suggest go back to Spain at the end of this season. Yeah. And you know, who could begrudge him now? I think he's been a brilliant buy for us. Lovely fella by all accounts, and you know, and like I say, I think he's brilliant. But Jack could have slotted in and picked up that Santi role if he could just learn to change his game slightly, because he's the one that's got the ball skills to do that. So I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe Arsenal, maybe the loan was, as Clive says, we don't know yet, but maybe the loan was Arsenal instigating it to give him time, to get him match fit, to get him over the knocks, to get him playing minutes so that he can come in and replace Santi. Maybe that's the whole plan. Or maybe it's been instigated from the other way around and Jack has said, look, you know, I need games. You can't guarantee me that. So come on, let me go out on loan.
What do you make of it? Let Woz come in and you come back to you, Clive.
Yeah, mate. Okay, I'll just come in.
I'm gutted, to be honest with you, mate. I've tried to think of every possible permutation as why it would be a good deal, and I still can't see it sat here right now. I mean, Jack Wilshere, we all know his injury record and his history and that, and everyone says he needs minutes, and I'm of the opinion he's definitely going to get minutes at Arsenal this season. And I look at our midfield, and he, for me, is up there. When he's playing well, he is one of the better players, if not the best, on his day. And this lad, if he goes Bournemouth, like you said, and starts playing well, and he's playing regularly, then I'd want that in the Arsenal team. I don't want to see him doing it for Bournemouth. I couldn't care less. I'm not worried about whether Jack gets minutes all the time. And that when he gets in the team at Arsenal, he's got to prove he's the bollocks. And a club like Arsenal should be having that kind of competition. And we don't know, like we're discussing, we don't know why he's gone, whether it's Wenger letting him go or Jack wants minutes or whatever. But either way, if Jack was saying, look, I want to go, I want to play, I'd be Arsenal saying, no, hang on a minute, Jack. We got a pucker squad here. You're probably looking at our midfielders. You're probably the only one that offers the kind of drive from deep with the ball. You're the only one that can carry possession. He's got every single tool Jack has to play CM, and we watched him come on at Leicester and straight away the tempo of the game up to 20%. He changes things, and I just can't fathom why we would want to lose a player of Jack Wilshere's quality. It don't make sense to me whatsoever. And I look at the other central midfielders we've got; they've all got their own attributes, but I think they're all very, very similar. I think El Nene covers yards, but he don't really offer a lot at either end. I think Santi doesn't cover as many yards, but he's absolutely brilliant on the ball. And then Coquelin will cover millions of yards, but he's next to useless in possession. And Granit Xhaka's going to be our defensive midfielder all season, like he should be. So Ramsey, you know, I'm a massive Aaron Ramsey fan, and I would play him central midfield in a 2, but I just think Ramsey and Wilshere for me are the 2 players that I'd be looking at as giving us an aggression from midfield, giving us an option in the final third, and sort of changing the way we play a bit. And I think without Jack, if Ramsey's out, we're going to be struggling, looking for someone to sort of get the team forward. The drive, yeah. And that's why I'm more upset, because we haven't got a player like Jack from central midfield who can take the ball from one end of the pitch to the other, literally by himself. And we all want to see him get minutes and improve and all that, but I want to see him do it at Arsenal. And if we honestly don't think that he's good enough, or we don't think he's fit enough, then personally I'd be looking at selling him to City, right, when they wanted him or whatever, the rumours. If we can get 30 million for him, why are we keeping hold of him? I don't understand it. I mean, no disrespect to people like El Nene, I think he's a very solid footballer, but I think Jack's on another level. But I just can't. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't.
See, I think something's happened here at the club, right? Because I did sort of have a little inkling that we might lose somebody from the squad last week, and I thought it might be Santi actually, but I didn't think it would be Jack. But I just felt there was one midfielder too many, and the way this sort of all broke, you know, suddenly it broke. The club has made him available. You know, that was a bit strange, right? So the club's made him available, and then suddenly there's 22 clubs coming for him. And this now tells you a lot about Jack, who he is as an individual. I mean, you've got AC Milan and Roma coming in for you, and you end up at Bournemouth. Right? So that tells you another thing. Now, Wenger has nurtured that kid. He had him training with the first team at 15 years of age, when no one knew about him. Training with the first team. He was known as the golden child in the academy. All the other kids were jealous of him. I've got a nephew, similar age. I know for a fact, so they're in the same year group all the way up. And basically, I know a lot about what happened when he was in the academy space. So basically, he was the golden child. And for Wenger to finally, he admitted many times he overplayed him. He played him injured. He played him too many times. He brought him back incorrectly. They misdiagnosed him a couple of times. He has done everything for that boy. For him to say, I'm going to let you go on loan, and I hear what's talking about Jack, and when I close my eyes, I can think about the memory of him driving through midfield and running away from people. There isn't too often in the last couple of years, maybe 2.5 years, where Jack has driven past people and run away from them. What's happening now? He's running past people and then getting caught up or smashed from the front. And it's a continual thing. And tactically, on the football side, as Mark alluded to, he needs to change. And I was really hopeful that he would go to Italy, where it's a bit more of a non-contact game instead of midfield, and he can get the running yards that he needs. This, for me, is about mobility and his mechanical movement of his legs. He's bow-legged like me. He's got a running style which is not conducive to game after game. His ankles and just the way he runs, the pressure on his knees, he's just not good. And there are rumours in the game that he's not going to make it back to the top level again. They're just rumours that could be scandalous, right? But I looked at him when he came on against Leicester, and I went, "Wow, he's coming back." That was 20 minutes towards the end when everyone else was tired. It's been a long time since we've seen him. I just wonder what the backstory is. I don't want to commit on anything here because we just don't know. Something's happened in that club. For Wenger to let the golden child leave the club, something's happened or something's about to happen in next year.
You know, Ornstein, the great David Ornstein, hinted that the club weren't against a buy option for Jack.
Yeah, I saw that today, Giles. Yeah. Yep.
And like, you know, when you say that the club have allowed Jack to leave the club, it's like, wow, you know, Wenger's actually is this ruthless Wenger?
This is the guy who watches him every day in training. Yeah. What is he seeing? What is he seeing? I mean, we close our eyes and we think of him. We think, wow, what a player! And by the way, he's top level. He's better than all the ones we got, right? And so that is a very, very top level. But that was a long time ago. A long time ago.
Even James Ollie said that you know, suggested that he was pushed out. He never asked to go on loan. He was made available for loan. So it's definitely a watch this space kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'd love him to come back after having a great season, sign a new contract and whatnot. But I wouldn't be surprised. And I said this yesterday on Twitter. I said, what are the chances that, you know, he doesn't come back? I know we've spoken in recent weeks, Clive, about good sellers. If Jack has a great season, a really encouraging season over at Bournemouth, would you be against getting what you can from? I mean, you know, knowing that you've just spoke about his mechanics and maybe there might be a break. We're just suggesting, we don't know. There might be a breakdown in communications over there. Do you think this is the perfect opportunity to get some money for Jack in this time next year?
There isn't many players like him with his talent. Right? The way he receives the ball on the back foot, the way he travels with it, with the furthest foot away from you. I don't know how he does it. He's got a unique running style with the ball. He's also got an unbelievable early vision. He's a real talented footballer, but his body's letting him down. And I think this is a body move. I'm hoping it's a body move because no matter how talented you are, if you can't get to the drop of the ball, to the pitch of the game, if you can't get to the rhythm of the game, you can't master the rhythm of the game. And I just think that's where he's lacking. And watching him move England in the summer was a real heartbreaker. You know, you're there with your mates watching England. And you're thinking, come on there, we got all these 5 Spurs boys in the team. They're all flagging. Come on, Jack, show us what you got. And he just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. And it was heartbreaking. We all know it deep down. He couldn't do it. He couldn't get to the pace of that game against even Iceland. We're not talking about, you know, we're not talking about Man City. We're talking about Iceland. You know, he couldn't do it. And his body just wasn't ready. And he needs to get ready. And he's not going to get ready having 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Wait until December. I did a little look today. He's been at Arsenal 8 seasons, right? And there has been 5 seasons where he's played less than 14 league games. And if 3 of those seasons he's played less than 5.
Yeah, I saw.
Unbelievable.
I think Sky Sports had it like, you know, the amount of games he's missed for Arsenal over the years is something ridiculous. He's missed more games than he's played. Mark, I want to bring you back in. Do you still have hope for Jack to see Jack in an Arsenal shirt again?
I think the interesting thing is that maybe if Jack was some French lad that we'd bought at 16 and he'd come through, I don't think people would be so sentimental about it. I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that, you know, as for local fans, watching a localish lad play means more, and don't get me wrong, I don't really care where players are from, but you do want your local lads to come through and play well, and I think he's still got credit in the bank for that. But his off-field persona doesn't help him. And I think maybe the club might, if he has a decent season at Bournemouth, maybe the club will have to make a big decision on him next season. I know Woz won't be happy with that, but they might have to look at it and say, well, can we afford to let him run down his year and leave for nothing, or do we try and cash in now and flog him for some money? But again, I think Clive's point, why Bournemouth? I mean, I know Eddie Howe is a very promising manager despite his calamitous spell at Burnley, and he gets them to try and play football, but he could have tried to do something a bit more. But then on the flip side of that, he's got a young family, so do you really want to take your young family abroad? So there's a lot to it, and we'll have to see. I'm sure there'll be more to come from this story. Already there's a story out there saying that Roma wanted to take him and an agreement had been reached, and then Arsenal pulled it because they were pissed off with them on the Manolas. They didn't want to talk to us about selling us Manolas, so we told Roma to go away. But who knows? Probably bullshit as well. But I mean, I'd love to see Jack succeed, but I think he's definitely in the Bournemouth branch of the Last Chance Saloon for me.
Yeah, I'll just jumping in here on this. People, we're now discussing about. First of all, everyone's saying, if Jack goes away, has a good season, he'll come back next year, replace Santi Cazorla. And we've talked around in 10 minutes to suggesting that if he has a good season, we're gonna be selling him. Like, what is? This is why I can't understand the whole reason behind the loan deal, because what are we going to get out of it? We just told ourselves here, and I wholeheartedly agree. There's a big chance that if he does have a good season, he's going to be just a few quid in the bank. But everyone's saying, it'll be good for him to get minutes, he'll come back and play. And
don't forget, we're not. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about from the club's perspective, because of what we know about the club.
Exactly. I know we're saying we wouldn't do that, but that's the Arsenal thing to do, isn't it? To do it like that. But also, I want to allude to a player like Thomas Rosicky. The geezer is a legend at the club. Everyone loves him, but he couldn't string together 5 or 6 games for years. And every year, when he come into the team, he made an impact. And that was during times where the squad depth weren't that great, and now there's options to rotate, and a player like Jack could have a huge influence on our season. And I think Santi Cazorla, he's missed 27 games for injury since last November. He's 32 in December, Santi. Now, that geezer ain't going to play 40 games this season. No chance. I can't. So, straight away, we're talking about Jack replacing Santi. Well, there's your opportunity, fella, because Santi ain't going to play all them games. And I'm just confused by it. Like,
This is why I think.
Go on, Clive.
Sorry, mate. This is why I think something's happened, because you made a great point there about Rosicky. Come on, mate. We could talk about Diaby as well, couldn't we?
Well, yeah, exactly. There's plenty.
And he has really, supported hugely through injury, and he's done it with Jack as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
But suddenly,
and Ox, to be fair.
Yeah.
And Ox.
People get injured at work. He looks after them, right? And he's done it. But suddenly, he's taken a different route. This is why I think there's a story to come out. Yeah. Because this is his golden child. Either he's seen something or something's happened, or maybe there's a ruthless streak about things happened in the past. I don't know. But there's something that's going to come out of this. And that's why I don't want to commit one way or the other. I don't think we know all the details.
There's definitely two sides to look at it. You could look at it as it's a way of him getting a season under his belt, or you can look at it as we're putting him in the shop window.
Yeah.
Who
we
knows?
just don't know.
Just move on to. I want to speak quickly about the rest of our rivals. What did you make of their transfer business? Do you think they've had a just as good a window as on par or less so than us? I'll start with you, Mark. Take any notice of the rest of them?
You know me, mate. I don't really bother myself too much with what the other clubs are doing, because it's nothing to do with us. We can't do anything about it as long as it's not us selling them to them, which thankfully we seem to have stopped doing. So I don't know. I mean, I think I think that the other clubs have probably bought some very decent players. Deals done early. I mean, even if you look at ours, Xhaka was bought fairly early on. I think Ibrahimovic is turning out to be a good buy for United. So I think a lot of the deals were done early, and so I don't know. I mean, I think, as I said, to me, the big changes that we needed to be worried about were Conte, Mourinho, and Guardiola. That was the three things that I think we needed to worry about.
Anyone want to jump in before we move on, or?
Yeah, do you mind if I do? Because I'm not buying the hype of the opposition teams at all. I made some bets with some mates that we'd finish higher than Liverpool after they just beat us. We're already hard them already. They've got holes everywhere in their team. They got nothing in defence in midfield. Jordan Henderson can't hold them. Neither can Emre Can. They've got no left backs. They're going to think James Milner going to do that all season. That's not going to work. So Liverpool going backwards, they're a non-option. Going forwards, they're beautiful. So they're going to win one, lose one. Man City, so they got a new manager. They got a lovely new dynamic, a new formation. They hug the touch lines and they drive inside on fullbacks. It all looks pretty. They still got Zabaleta. They still got Clichy. They still got Kolarov. They still got Otamendi. All last year were rubbish. So again, watch them going backwards, under pressure when the season gets a little bit hotter. Not buying it. Aguero, if he gets out, 3-game ban. They're with a good player, Iheanacho, but he's a kid still, right? So they've got single points of failure just like we have. Man United, I mean, I know Zlatan has scored a couple of goals. In the last couple of games, he's been quite poor, and he hasn't done it, and they just scraped past Hull. Again, they've got two right-sided centre-backs in Bailey and Smalling. They're still relying on Daley Blind, not buying it. They've Luke Shaw, first season back. Let's see how he goes. Good. I hope it goes well for him. On the right back, they've got Valencia. I mean, okay, this is not the world. This is not Bellerin. Do you see what I mean? So I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own issues, we don't realise that the other teams have got issues. Unless Spurs added more muscle, more track runners, right? So again, they've lost one, bought one. I don't think they've bought very well considering where they were. So I tell you, I'm not looking around with any sort of jealous eyes, that's for sure.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the shape of the squad with these new additions. Starting the defence, I think Holding has done brilliantly, but I'm keen for him to be able to take a step back now that Mustafi's in and hopefully, gets up to speed quickly, that, we can allow Holding to sort of like just, maturate naturally, out of the spotlight. Do you see Mustafi? Obviously, we all see Mustafi as the right-sided centre-back, and Kashon as a left-sided centre-back. I know last week you both and Clive had differing opinions on what how on the kind of player that Mustafi was, but a week on, how soon do you expect him to be up to speed?
Now. Yeah,
he'll play.
He'll play. I think he'll walk straight into the team, and I don't think he'll leave the team, touch wood, barring injury, for the rest of the season. And I think if Mustafi and Kos can stay fit, and Monreal and Bellerin, and Cech, if you look there at a back five, I'm never a big fan of messing about with my centre backs and the spine of the team, as a matter of fact, and I think we've got a very strong spine now, actually, for once. But with regards to the back five, I think we will see Mustafi come straight in, and I'd like to play that five in as many games as possible, unless someone's form dips, and then you've got to be a bit more ruthless. But realistically, I think we could see a nice little thing gelling there with them five.
What do you think of Gabriel? How do you expect this will affect Gabriel? He's had teething problems settling in, whether it's away from football, on the football pitch. He's not really convinced. Do you think? Do you reckon he might see his place as being in jeopardy, or do you think this is a perfect time to sort of allow him to sort of settle in, pretty much like Adu when he first came? He had a lot of problems off the field, and it took a little bit of time to settle. Do you expect to see the same from Adu?
Yeah, from Gabriel. Yeah, I'm a massive Gabriel fan. we know he reminds me so much of Kos when he first joined. He was an absolute calamity. He was scoring own goals left, right, and centre. He was getting out muscled. He looked like a little weakling. And you're sort of thinking, well, this lad does look like he's come from the French league too. And then out of nowhere, within 3 years, he's matured into one of the best centre backs out there. No two ways about it. He's a stronger man, and I think Gabriel's going through that same process. But I remember the first time I ever saw him live, I was away at St James's Park, and he played centre back, and he played really well that day. Kept a clean sheet. But I remember he was just the kind of player that if someone was running down a line and he was going out to get to him, if he was getting to the ball first, that ball was going out the stadium. He weren't just tapping it out. He's a very, very aggressive, front-footed defender who loves to be involved in the game, and very much like Kos. But I think he will develop, and you can see he's got passion to his game. Like the whole Costa incident, like he's there. He's a man, and he really wants it at centre back, but he's very rough around the edges, and he's still developing. And I think with Mustafi coming in, Gabriel's still young enough for Kos to be over the hill and far away, and Gabriel to step into his shoes. And
I agree.
Kos didn't really develop till quite late, really. When you look at his age and look where he come from, he's another player that come up sort of the hard way in the French league too, and then all of a sudden look what he is. And I do think Gabriel could follow a similar path, and it's not guaranteed. And a lot of fans at the moment, and rightfully so, are laughing at him. They go, "Oh, look at this guy, he's fucking terrible." But I can see it there. I can see it. Will it happen? Can't guarantee it, but I think there's a very good chance that over time developing and now not having the pressure of having to play week in, week out, because it was looking like Koscielny and Gabriel might have been the partnership, and that wouldn't have been good for him, I don't think. So now with Mustafi in, he can come into games, the odd game. I don't want to see him changing centre-backs every week, but we've got a strong base now, and he can have a good partner in Holding as well. I think that would be a good partnership as well, to see Holding and Gabriel alongside each other, because although we ain't seen Holding much, but I think for his age, young lad, he looks like he could hold a centre-back partnership with someone and complement each other. So I like Gabriel, and I really hope he does settle in and he does become the man I think he can become.
Clive, hold on a second. I want to bring Mark in.
Like a defender.
Yes, mate.
He's there.
What, Gabriel?
Yeah.
I like Gabriel. When he joined, I thought he's because he reminds me a lot also of Martin Keown. And I thought that was the kind of centre half that we needed to go with Kos, because Kos is a bit more of a, particularly as he's getting into his 30s now, he's a bit more has to become the intelligent centre half and let somebody else do the aggressive part. And I thought Gabriel would be able to do that, and it looked like he would early on. Certainly when he came in and he played in the home game against Liverpool to 0-0, I thought he had a decent game, as did Czech, but. He did lose his way somewhat. I think he wasn't helped by all the drama around his sending off at Chelsea and the trouble with Costa. And then I think he lost confidence. And then the longer the season went on and the more we sort of wobbled and started to fall apart, I think that just impacted him as well. I hope, as was said, that it's just, it's a settling in period, and that he will come good, because I think he's got a lot of attributes there to be a very good centre-half, and certainly slightly different from the other ones that we had. Although, as Clive said, I think Mustafi's probably got a little bit of that about him as well.
Clive, over to you.
Yeah, two boys have nailed it. They've done it, and they've killed everything I was going to say. And only thing I was add is that, on my YouTube watching, like I do, at Villarreal, Gabriel was a left-sided centre-back. And I think a lot of the problems he's had at Arsenal is moving on to the right side. To me, he does look like Cos's takeout player, right? So I think eventually he will end up being our primary left side in a couple of years. But it's what we do in the meantime, how many games he gets. I think he's that player that's got the real dynamic pace. He's nearly as quick as Cos, basically. And the other sided players, the two right-sided players, are Holding and Mustafi, and they are a bit steadier in how they play. Mustafi, again, I watched him last night playing for Germany against Finland, and they played a back three, funny enough, and he was the one in the centre. Again, Germany now putting him as their main defensive pillar. He is their next star with Boateng. That's the next partnership. And So we're going to have a top level player playing for us, and I'm just hoping he stays injury free and plays 30, 40, 50 games for us this season, because if he does, we're going to have a very strong spine.
What does it mean for our club captain?
Well,
Is he going to follow suit with the last 3 club captains of all?
Avida Zane.
Yeah.
For
all
me,
non-playing roles, haven't they?
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he does all the dinners and orders food and all the rest of it. And you need those people in clubs, right? But again, we're going back to squad efficiency. We had about 4 or 5 of them last year. We've only got maybe 1 or 2 this year that are just not doing the minutes. And if they play, it's going to be a long time before they play. So we're more efficient as a group. What does it mean for Calum Chambers? We talk about Jack. We're a little bit, none of us want it to happen, but there is a potential that Jack may not come back, right? So the same potential for Calum Chambers. He might not come back. If he gets used to playing every single week, and he does quite well, he's looking at Rob Holding, who's taller, quicker, calmer. You got to say to yourself, well, what's the point? I need to play, and so it could easily happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a candle for Calum for quite some time. I think I'm about to lose my £10 bet with my mate Andrew, but he's definitely one I can see that if he has a good season under Karanka, I can easily see a deal being worked out there. Which is a shame, but he just hasn't. The way we overplayed him and then stuck him out on the right and allowed him to get fried alive by Montero. He never came back from it. And that's why I'm really hoping, and I'm really much more reassured now that Holding will get the proper nurturing that Chambers didn't get, because we've got 3 defenders that can come in, and we're playing most of the minutes and allowing the boy to just sort of like ease into the system, which unfortunately didn't happen for Calum. Quickly, Debussy, what was that about? I thought did somebody come in for him and then he turned it down, or what was that about?
I think he's injured.
He's injured still. But I thought somebody was prepared to take a chance on him, even though he was injured. But anyway, he's here till at least January, isn't he? I think he's loving the money. I think you said it last week, Clive. You said that he's on 80. There's not many clubs that will take him for 80. He's not prepared to take a wage cut. So he's probably he's doing.
Arsenal will get him fit, and they'll try to use him. And Jenkinson's out there trying to get fit. So that would be interesting to see what they do when both of them are fit. We need that right back fit quickly. I don't really want to see Holding or Mustafi playing out there too many times. So Chambers thing hurts me, man. It's really quite sad, really, because I really like him. I want him to succeed. He has lost a bit of confidence. He's just not engaging and winning his duels, and he's making silly decisions. He just needs to play. But if he plays well, he's got the talent, and if he recovers mentally, I don't know, he could go.
You know what? Seeing him at Middlesbrough, it kind of reminds me of a young Jonathan Woodgate at Leeds. He could be that kind of player, silky, elegant, good on the ball, good reader. Just needs to play and get that confidence back. Anyway, moving on. Xhaka in the midfield. Like I was saying earlier on, the nucleus, most of that midfield are around the same kind of age. They're all sort of like nearing or at their peak, apart from Santi Cazorla. Clive, I know you said you had something to say about Rambo and how we deploy Rambo. Can you impart some of your wisdom upon us?
Right, okay, you pinned me down, right, so I'm going to have to say it.
Oh, that was odd.
So Ramsey, right, so me and Woz have discussions on Ramsey quite a lot, and Woz sees him as a midfield 2 player, and I see him slightly differently. When you look at him as a footballer, he can do it all. He can run, jump, pass, tackle, shoot, score, right? So he's a decent size now. I do worry about his reverse gear pace. I don't think he's as good as his I can get a goal going forward pace. But he's an incredibly athletic player. And I must admit, Wales versus Belgium, I was surprised at his body power and how he drove that game. Probably the best game I've ever seen him play, right? Because they're a quality side. So he did surprise me. But what position did he play? So where Wales play, they play a 4-3-2-1. So he's basically, it's a Christmas tree, and he plays him and Bell are the two behind Robson, Kanu or Sam Vokes, right? So and funny enough, he takes position on the left. And a lot of the time we played Ramsey on the right, and a lot of people say that's his best position. The reason why they say that is because he doesn't have to have the tactical responsibility of holding us together in midfield, keeping our distances short, making sure we have combinations. There are players probably not as talented as Ramsey that do that better than him. So I was thinking, me and Watts were talking about the game last week on the weekend pod, and we were talking about Oxlade Chambers, who played on the left. Again, he's not suited for that position. But the way Alexis played, we had two left wingers, basically. And what happened was that Oxlade Chamberlain found himself running down the centre of the pitch quite a lot as they rotated. And I closed my eyes and went, you know what? Imagine if that was Ramsey out there, coming in from the left, inside, on his strongest foot, driving down the centre of the pitch, which he does anyway. And in that scenario, I could rather than see him play on the right like he did in the Cup final year, playing him on the left, and Wells did it, and what he does is it opens up the pitch for a cross-field pass from him to connect on his strongest foot. He's got a great shot, and I'd love to see Arsenal try him in the Iwobi type role, right? And not just say, you're one of our two in the deep midfield or you're number 10. Number 10, we know he can do it. That's his dream, wants to play behind the striker. Midfield 2, I have reservations, not even agrees with me. But I do think I'd like to see him play on that left side. When we play Alexis further forward, I think that rotation, but him being on his right foot, remember, his trick is he can score. And he hasn't scored as much as he used to do. I want to see him scoring again because we need to find the 15, 20 goals that we're short. So that's just my thought process. Again, people don't agree, but one of the measures that you have when you're measuring a player is on their psychology from defence to attack and vice versa. Ramsey's psychology, really, how quickly he switches on from defence to attack is unbelievable. He sees things really early. He drives in early. He gets there too quickly, actually, sometimes. I don't think he arrives.
Ahead of the ball quite a lot.
He's ahead of the ball. He's ahead of the centre forward. He can see it really quickly. But going the other way, I don't see the same. I know Woz is going to say, he makes loads of tackles, I've got the stats. But I'm telling you, I just don't see it. And the reason why, his distances are not good. He just sees the forward play easier. It's more natural. That's his DNA. If he does all his work in the top third, I think we have to remove him from our middle third and play him as much as we can in the higher third, especially when we have the pace of Theo on the pitch and the pace of Alexis on the pitch. I think we can afford to use him a little bit more in a wider position. And see, people say play him wide right, but I think Theo's better on the right, as is Ox. But left, where Iwobi picked up 15 appearances last season, I would like to see him in that position on occasion and not just be restricted to the middle two.
Do you want to come in on that?
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about the inverted wing.
I've got to bang a bit of my own drum here about Ramsey and give the reasons why. I don't really want to pull up stats and go, he's done this amount of tackles, X amount of things. It's not relevant really. I think last season we saw a lot of Aaron Ramsey at central midfield playing alongside the most chaotic, idiotic madman I've ever seen in defensive midfield in my life. He had no legs, he had no brain, we talk about distances and things. For me, he didn't even. 1 minute he's in line with the centre backs, playing centre back, then the next minute he's ahead of bloody Ozil up the other end of the park. The bloke was an absolute shambles. Now, if you're looking at Ramsey in a 2, you need, for me, a structured defensive midfielder like Granit Xhaka, who will control the game, who will distribute the ball through the lines, and then that releases that position ahead of him for the freedom of the pitch. Now, Ramsey, in his best season, 13-14, 16 goals from central midfield, everything he done good, he was behind the ball, the game was ahead of him, and he was coming into the game, arriving late, arriving on time, on point. Now, he was doing that from deep midfield. I understand the reservations about him maybe playing alongside Francis Coquelin, for instance, because we would then be looking at requesting Ramsey to pick up possession and constantly pass the ball and spray the ball. And by the way, he has a hell of a lot of touches a game. He's always involved. He always wants the ball. And I think at number 10, I do think he looks a little bit lost. And I think he was a bit lost against Liverpool. And I think he's much better when he's constantly involved in the game and the ball's ahead of him and he's joining the game. And he's 6 foot tall. He's strong as an ox. strong as Ox. So he's literally the bloke. I love him. I think he's a complete central midfielder, but I think he needs to be played alongside Xhaka if he's going to play CM. And it'd break my heart to see him wide. And Clive, you made a great point about goals from the team, and that is out of this transfer window and the way we're going into the season. That is what worries me the most out of everything. And then last season, it was the second least goals Wenger ever scored in 19 years. And
that's all I'm looking at is how we get increase our goal output. You know for a fact, as you just said, if Ramsey's starting position in defence is on the tucked in left hand side of him, Monreal outside him, and Alexis just ahead of him. I'm just looking at the scenario of Watford, for example, playing the Ox position. If he played that Ox role, I think he's better than Ox in that role. That's all I was saying, right? And I think he could, from that position, if you looked at the Wales game, Belgian game, I know him and Bale swap around a bit, but his starting position was tucked in on the left. And that's an interesting thing. We've used him tucked in on the right. It's just something that I spotted watching the video, and I thought, you know what? We've got to get him on his right foot because he's got a great shot. I heard some another podcast, and the guy said, great point. He said, Ramsey is the best player at Arsenal that we're getting the least out of. I thought that is a great shout because he is. We are not getting the best out of him. And I'm looking at ways of how can we get more out of him? How are Wales set up to get more out of him? They have 3 people behind him and he's allowed the freedom of the pitch in that middle to top third. Right? And I just think we got to find a way to get him in a similar scenario in our knowing that Wenger won't change his formation. We use him on the right. He had a great period on the right. He didn't like it, but I liked him there. Right, that's for sure. Maybe flipping it. If we are using Alexis more up front, there's an option to play him some games there. I'm not saying he can't play in the 2. Obviously, he can do it, right? And obviously, he can play 10. And obviously, he can play right as well. I just we've never seen him play on the left for Arsenal. And it's just an interesting thought I had, that's all.
Sorry, let me just bring Mark back in. I mean, Mark, what was the point of bringing in someone like Lucas Perez who can play on the left and up front if we're going to, put round holes in square pegs?
Well, I mean, I think Perez has been brought to possibly rotate with Giroud, but as much as he can do a job out wide. But no, I mean, Ramsey, people know I'm not like the biggest fan of Ramsey. I always thought he could become our sort of Frank Lampard, and I just really disappointed because I just don't. I think it's what you just said. It's Ramsey is that player. But I'm not convinced we'll ever have a system that will fit Ramsey. And it seems that we have spent an awful lot of time trying to do the opposite, trying to fit Ramsey into our system in whatever position we're short of through injury, or we want to try and give him games, And I mean, I'm quite happy for. As Clive's convinced me that he's worth a punt out on the left hand side, and let's see how it works. I would start to be a bit concerned whether the lad will begin to get quite frustrated about not having a set position and not being able to play the game he wants to play at Arsenal. I happen to think he believes he's possibly a better player than he actually is, and that may lead to him getting his head turned to look to move on. Sometime towards the end of his next contract. But no, I mean, Clive makes a very good point. Give him a go out there.
For me, if you want to get the best out of him, play him in a free. Obviously, Wenger's not going to do that, but I don't really. Yeah. I mean, playing him on the left as an inverted, I'm like, well, you've got Alexis there, you've got Perez that can play there. Iwobi's going to come back. I mean, do we really need to? I mean, you make some good points. He can come in on the diag. And come onto his right foot and strong foot and blah, blah, blah. But we don't need to be. We don't even need to be. I
just think it's going to be interesting to see when everyone's healthy what Wenger does, right? So I never saw Santi and Xhaka being able to play together, actually. But they came on last week and it was like, well, we've got this ball. What are you lot going to do? Until their legs went in the second half. And then you looked at it, you thought, crikey, they could be really good. And then, I think El Nenny's been punished for a poor performance after half-time versus Liverpool, and he's been sat on the bench. Coquelin's been trusted. I think Xhaka might not have even played at the weekend. I think maybe Coquelin did something to warm up. I heard a rumour. So yeah, Xhaka's come into that game, and well, we all saw what he's got. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as he can breathe, he should play all the time, right? So, so it's just going to be interesting to see what he does. And again, we and Watson speaking about this as well. What's he going to do when everyone's fit and he's got all the options, right? And that's going to be how he manages that. So far, I think he hasn't done a bad job. The season really starts after the transfer window, and it's going to be interesting to watch. Right? I want to see Xhaka and Ramsey play and see if I've got it right or wrong. Right? So see if Ramsey, if he can develop tactical responsibility. That's what it's about for him. Because Santi Cazorla, he can't run as much as him. No. But he's got feet of gold and he knows where to stand. And that's it.
Yeah, I have to say I would much rather see Ramsey in a 2 than try him on the left. That's just I understand you're just throwing it out there, Clive. Your theory out there.
Yeah, just throwing it out. I'm not saying he plays at his first position. Yeah. I want to see him in the middle too. I want to see him with Xhaka. I want to see him in there with Xhaka because we've seen him with Santi. We've seen him with Santi and he's too slow. Yeah. We've seen him with Coquelin. It's an upgrade on Flamini, but again, he needs someone to control the ball next to him because he's about breaking into spaces and following the play and following the ball and trying to get back. That's what his game's about. So Xhaka is the one to get the most out of him. Only he can up to a point, but I think his range of pass is not quite as good for the team structure as Xhaka's is. So I think let's see how it goes. It's going to be part of the fun, isn't it? I'm looking forward to it. But another option is to tuck him in how we played the Ox the other day. Ox did not. He's not going to go to a touchline and whip it in on his left foot. He played like an inverted winger. And I thought, put Ramsey in that role, it's a goer.
Let's move on and segue that onto Perez, who's been brought to help out Giroud and also can play off the left. I haven't seen anything of him, to be honest. I've seen a couple of really good goals. He looks really quick. He looks quite aggressive. And he looks really sure-footed. When he hits it stays hit. But that's all I've seen of him. He apparently scored 17 goals. He dropped off towards the second half of last season, so much the output dropped off a little bit. But I'm looking to you guys to tell me what you know, or what you've seen, or what you believe, or what you think, what kind of ideas you formed about him. Mark, I'm going to start with you because I know you're on the same page as me. You don't know much about him. What's your opinion?
Jack shit, mate. No idea, no clue. I haven't bothered looking at YouTube or anything. I just haven't bothered. I'll make what I always do is, particularly with players that come from abroad, I will make my judgment when I've seen them playing games for the Arsenal. I can't, unless you've obviously, they're a big star that you've seen loads of. I'm not going to sit here and make out I know anything about him, mate. So I'll leave that to the other guys.
What I will say is one thing I'm not worried about is I expect him to be quite strong mentally, just because of the his career to date. So I'm not really worried about that, but I'd like to know. Have you seen a few clips? What are you looking for in him? What do you think we can produce out of him?
I just want what I wanted from the summer for regards to a centre forward is a centre forward. I don't want someone who can play on the left, can play on the right, No, I want a number 9. I want someone who's going to be a centre forward. Alexis can play centre forward. Walcott can play centre forward. They're not centre forwards. I want a man who's going to be up there, and you can look on the bench, or you can start him and you bring Giroud on. But I want someone who's got an identity as a goal-scoring centre forward, who's going to get in the positions, who's going to be in the box, who's going to want these chances to come to him, who's hungry for goals. Now, I haven't seen anywhere near enough of Perez. He's by all accounts, early on in his career, he was out wide, and he's been converted to a sort of centre forward. From the minimal clips I have seen, he does look very tenacious, like you said. He looks busy. It's going to have to be more of a wait and see. I see a lot of people going, "Oh yeah, start him. He's got to start straight away." Giroud's just gone out tonight and scored yet again for France, and he's in top form, and he scored a bloody good goal again. Giroud's a man that is going to thrive off of Theo Walcott playing on the right wing. Whether people like that or not, Theo will deliver the ball, and Giroud will get on the end of the deliveries. Simple as that. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And hopefully, Perez can be a centre forward. That's all I want him to do. Rotate with Giroud and be a centre forward.
Looking at his profile, if we just take just the profile, quick, tenacious, aggressive, seems to hit the ball early, Like I'm trying to find the words. He can be quite unpredictable with his shot locations and shot profiles. Somebody like that, do you think could play off of that could play with someone like Ozil? Ozil lights runners, someone like Sanchez lights runners, somebody that you can interchange with. I'm sure having another speedster alongside, along with someone like Walcott as well. Do you think somebody of that profile, that identity, could work in a system such as ours? Because when we're fizzing the ball about quickly, anyone with that kind of profile that Perez seems to have, you'd imagine would benefit greatly.
I do think it'd benefit greatly, but what I would say is, especially when we play teams at home, it's a deep block. They've got 10 men behind the ball all the time, and I think it's very hard for a centre forward, unless they're real world class quality, someone like Aguero or Suarez, to actually find the correct run in the middle of the pitch against a team so deep and so compact. Now, I'm always of the opinion that's why I like the width idea at home, because your runners need to come from wide areas across and create different angles, because I think it'll be very hard for Perez to sort of find that yard in behind when there's nowhere to go in behind. Now, in certain games, there will be opportunities where we will be under the cosh, away at big games, and Perez might be the perfect option, because we'll win the ball, bang, ta-da, off you go. We've got players running out from all areas, and it's all about horses for courses. It's nice to have a different option there. But I would worry a little bit if Olivier Giroud did get injured, to be fair. I would.
Clive, bring you in.
Yeah, I've done my watching, and he is quite intense, and he is quite busy, and one thing he does do, I read something about from Deportivo fans saying they say he was born on the shoulder of the last man, and that's what he does, and that's I thought that's great. And if you watch his movements, sometimes people move to be part of the collective, and Giroud does that, and he's a big part of our game plan. A lot of his movements are for other people, and then the final movement is for him when he makes his runs in the box. I love Giroud at home. I think he's absolutely critical to us at home. Away from home, teams have pushed us up and pushed us back onto the back foot and taken that emphasis away from us, especially when Theo was out of the team, because we had no ability to run in behind. I'm hoping, and from what I've seen and what I've read, that Perez is that man. He is a centre forward. I don't see him as a wide man. He can play on the right as well, and obviously he can play on the left because he's been wide. But I see him as a Giroud rotator, as Mark said, and I want him on the shoulder. I want him being clever moving. I want him getting his body on the half turn, facing the right way, early shots, and I'm really hoping that's what he's like. But we just can't tell, right, what he's going to be like.
No,
we see him in a red shirt, but I think that's the profile.
Yeah,
I really like the profile of him. I really think it's good. But in the end, it's what you do on grass, right? It's not what you see on, it's what you do in the Premiership with the intensity that we have in our league. We need to see that.
I just feel that with the players that we have, he could. Like I said, I keep saying the profile seems right.
He could explode.
Yeah, you look at him over 10, 15 yards. I haven't just the little I've seen, and look at him over the first 10, 15 yards. He's gone. And somebody like Ozil that loves to give the early pass, someone like Sanchez who likes to come for the ball, someone like Perez who'll go in behind, same with Theo. There's lots of good combinations there, that front four.
One of those YouTube clips, he's actually running away from Mustafi. Wow. Right? So
there you go.
Right? And he smashes it top bags. So he's got pace, but we just don't know. I want to just hold that a little bit until we see him. Right? And he could be carrying his leg like a suitcase until we see it. So we just don't know.
Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question because obviously you guys have watched him and I haven't, but from what you're describing, he sounds like a player that would fit into the system that we used at Watford. Now, when you looked at that, that was all about runners, playing balls through to runners getting in behind their back three in the first half, not so much in the second half when they went more 4-4-2. But if we come back and bring Giroud into the team, is Giroud going to slow that up and make it more difficult at home? when we're playing against more banks of 4 and 5, or do we need Perez to be the centre forward with Alexis and Walcott either side of him at home? If that's the case, what do you think?
You going, Clive?
No, you go, Ross. You go.
Or Giles, do you want to answer it?
I think it's the good thing is it's the flexibility.
Yeah.
You don't have to have one or the other. If it doesn't work with Giroud as a wall, switch it up and then use Perez and then have that quick interplay. And you have him and people like Walcott and Sanchez running off it. Like I said, I haven't seen much of him, but I'm just talking about the profile from what I've read. He's quick, he's tenacious, he's unpredictable shot locations. All that seems to make me think that he's the different kind of striker that we need. Whether he's going to be that good, I don't know, Mark. But the profile seems to fit the kind of striker that we need. And, where we struggle sometimes is when we're not fizzing the ball apart. We're not fizzing the ball around. It's not just about having quick run. It's about making the ball do the work. And sometimes we are so laboured, that crab-like football, that pedestrianism. It's because we're not making the runs. And sometimes, I love the guy, but Giroud isn't the guy to have in that system when teams are playing the low block. He's just not that. He's not that kind of guy. You need people to be making those sharp runs and being unpredictable. And I'm hoping that this guy could be one of those guys that can work within that frame.
I just think Giroud. I think I'm starting to. I like him, but I think it's time for us to really give players the right people around them. Right. So, Joel Campbell, great year, great hard-working player on the right-hand side there, but he wasn't really going to run beyond. Theo Walcott now is going to run beyond. So we're not looking at Giroud's lack of pace, because we know we got speed up there, right? So I think it's important that when Giroud plays, he's got the speed around him, so we can see his strengths. We can see him getting into the areas where he can hurt people. I think sometimes at Arsenal we pick these players and we don't give them the right tools around them. I do think Giroud and Perez will rotate. I do have a natural bias for fast Arsenal, right, and for fast players. But I've got to learn. I've got to open my mind up to the strengths of a Giroud. I've just seen his goal versus Italy and its quality, and he is he's a very good centre forward of his type. And think of somebody better than him of his type. The way he lays that ball, the way he moves that ball, his strength, his weight, his power. He's a very good centre forward. I just don't like the way we overburden him. We play him 55 games a season and he barely gets a rest. He never comes off. He barely gets injured.
And then we crucify him, don't we?
Then we crucify him when he flags in a game. Yeah. And he sits on the sideline for a couple of games. Then he's back in there again. I think we overburden him. And I'm hoping this guy can support him, because the more Giroud is fresh, the better player we're going to see. And I was watching me talking the other week. He wants his competition. He wants someone to push him. And I'm hoping that's going to, again, increase our goal output, because that's what we need.
Yeah, quite. Look, we've overrun the hour mark, so I want to try and bring it to an end, close. We've got the Legends game this weekend. Unfortunately, no Dennis, no Thierry. But
no Legends.
No Legends, yeah. But Bobby Perez is going to be there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I hope so. And Kanu. So I'm sure I'm going to see you, Mark, and you, Clive. You're not going to make it this occasion, are you?
I'm a fair weather fan, mate.
Yeah, plastic. Yeah, I understand.
I'm plastic. I can't make the Legends games.
All right. So the next home game will be Southampton. Hopefully we'll see pretty much coming onto us full strength team. That will be all for now. You can catch us on all the platforms. You should know it by now. If you haven't, please do subscribe. Please do rate, and please do tell a friend, because we love the feedback. We love our egos massaged, don't we, Mark?
Where did that come from? Clive's the only one who gets his ego massaged, mate.
Absolutely. He doesn't, that's why.
I love Clive.
That's why I didn't even.
I don't say a word. I just stay cool. You're only as good as your last. You're only as good as your last podcast, mate.
Used to it now.
Oh God. Fucking hell.
All right, guys. Let's call it a night. That's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. Hope you enjoyed. Join us again soon. Up the Arsenal.